वरधारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरवनचारी। यशोदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजन गोपी तीरवन। यशोदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरवनचारी। यशोदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरवनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरवनचारी। यशोदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरवनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरवनचारी। यशोदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरवनचारी। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा शिल प्रभुपादा। Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvikacharya Ashtottara Shata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajakacharya Ashtottara Shata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री वृंदावन धाम मथुरा धाम की श्री जगन्नाथपुरी क्षेत्र धाम की नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की गंगा यमुना माई की तुलसी देवी भक्ति देवी की सामवेद भक्त वृंद की all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories, all glories, all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Narang Chaiva Narottamam Deving Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaye Namo Namaha. Welcome everyone to today's Srimad Bhagavatam class. We'll be reciting from 3rd canto, 32nd chapter, titled Effects of Fruitive Activities, and verse number 10. Evam paretya bhagavantam anupraviṣṭā. Evam paretya bhagavantam anupraviṣṭā. Ye yogino jita-marun-manaso virāgāḥ. Ye yogino jita-marun-manaso virāgāḥ. Tenaiva sākam amṛtaṁ puruṣaṁ purāṇaṁ. Tenaiva sākam amṛtaṁ puruṣaṁ purāṇaṁ. Brahma pradhānam upayānty agatābhimānāḥ. Brahma pradhānam upayānty agatābhimānāḥ. Evam paretya bhagavantam anupraviṣṭā. Ye yogino jita-marun-manaso virāgāḥ. Tenaiva sākam amṛtaṁ puruṣaṁ purāṇaṁ. Brahma pradhānam upayānty agatābhimānāḥ. Evaṁ paretya bhagavantam anupraviṣṭā. Ye yogino jita-marun-manaso virāgāḥ. tenaiva sākam amṛtaṁ puruṣaṁ purāṇaṁ brahma pradhānam upayānty agatābhimānāḥ evam paretya bhagavantam anupraviṣṭā ye yogina jita-marun-manaso virāgāḥ tenaiva sākam amṛtaṁ puruṣaṁ purāṇaṁ brahma pradhānam upayānty agatābhimānāḥ. Please chant. Jita-marun-manaso virāgāḥ tenaiva sākam amṛtaṁ puruṣaṁ purāṇaṁ brahma pradhānam upayānty agatābhimānāḥ evam paretya bhagavantam anupraviṣṭā ye yogino jita-marun-manaso virāgāḥ tenaiva sākam amṛtaṁ puruṣaṁ purāṇaṁ. One more. Evam paretya bhagavantam anupraviṣṭā ye yogino jita-marun-manaso virāgāḥ tenaiva sākam amṛtaṁ puruṣaṁ purāṇaṁ brahma pradhānam upayānty agatābhimānāḥ evam paretya bhagavantam anupraviṣṭā ye yogino jita-marun-manaso virāgāḥ tenaiva sākam amṛtaṁ puruṣaṁ purāṇaṁ brahma pradhānam upayānty agatābhimānāḥ. Anyone else? Word for word. Evam, thus. Paretya, having gone a long distance. Bhagavantam, Lord Brahma. Anupraviṣṭāḥ, entered. Ye, those who. Yoginaḥ, yogīs. Jita, controlled. Marut, the breathing. Manasaḥ, the mind. Virāgāḥ, detached. Tena, with Lord Brahma. Eva, indeed. Sākam, together. Amṛtaṁ, the embodiment of bliss. Puruṣaṁ, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purāṇaṁ, the oldest. Brahma pradhānam, the Supreme Brahman. Upayānty, they go. Agata, not gone. Abhimānāḥ, whose false ego. Translate and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki jai. The yogis who become detached from the material world by practice of breathing exercises and control of the mind reach the planet of Brahma, which is far, far away. After giving up their bodies, they enter into the body of Lord Brahma, and therefore, when Brahma is liberated and goes to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the Supreme Brahman, such yogis can also enter into the kingdom of God. Please repeat with me. The yogis who become detached from the material world by practice of breathing exercises and control of the mind reach the planet of Brahma, which is far, far away. After giving up their bodies, they enter into the body of Lord Brahma. And therefore, when Brahma is liberated and goes to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the Supreme Brahman, such yogis can also enter into the kingdom of God. Purport. By perfecting their yogic practice, yogis can reach the highest planet, Brahma Loka or Satya Loka. And after giving up their material bodies, they can enter into the body of Lord Brahma. Because they are not directly devotees of the Lord, they cannot get liberation directly. They have to wait until Brahma is liberated, and only then, along with Brahma, are they also liberated. It is clear that as long as a living entity is a worshipper of a particular demigod, his consciousness is absorbed in thoughts of that demigod, and therefore he cannot get direct liberation or entrance into the kingdom of God, nor can he merge into the impersonal effulgence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such yogis or demigod worshippers are subjected to the chance of taking birth again when there is again creation. Om ajñānatimirandhasya jñānāñjana shalakaya chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya manobhishtam sthapitam yena bhutale swayam rupa kada mahyam dadati swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathang Vitang Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padang Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhang Vitangscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. The yogis who become detached from the material world by practice of breathing exercises and control of the mind reach the planet of Brahma, which is far, far away. After giving up their bodies, they enter into the body of Lord Brahma, and therefore, when Brahma is liberated and goes to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the Supreme Brahman, such yogis can also enter into the kingdom of God. So, thank you all for assembling here for today's Bhagavatam class. Before I start speaking, I would like to get the blessings of all the Vaishnavas assembled here. All of you are much more advanced than I am. So thank you all for being here. And if you would kindly give me your blessings, I may speak something along the lines of Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu. So please give me that blessing so I can share some Krishna Katha, my realizations of this verse. So this verse is a very interesting verse. Although it talks about Brahma and Brahmaloka and Satyaloka and impersonal this and impersonal that, yogic meditation, it actually glorifies Krishna's kindness. It glorifies his compassion, and how also because Krishna being kindness, his devotees are equally compassionate towards all the fallen conditioned souls of this world. So as we can see, there's many meditational processes or yogic processes out there that have been created by the Supreme Lord himself. Most of them are indirect paths to achieving Krishna, but some of them are easier, and only one of them is actually the direct way of approaching Krishna, and that, as you all know, is bhakti. But because there's so many different kinds of people with so many different mentalities, proclivities, understanding of this material world, Krishna has created all these different kinds of processes, because if you just give one path to every single person and expect them to follow it, it's very difficult for them to do so. But because of this variegatedness that comes from the spiritual world, the material world is also variegated. Although temporary, it is still variegated. So that's why there's so many different yogic paths, meditational paths. There's karma, there's Ashtanga yoga, there's Hatha yoga, there's karma yoga, jnana yoga, so many different kinds of yogas. But the goal is to attain Krishna. That's the same amongst all these processes. No matter what process you're following, as long as the goal is Krishna, and as long as the goal is to love Krishna, to develop that love for Krishna, then you're following the right process. Of course, out of all these processes, Bhakti Yoga, we've seen in various literatures by the Goswamis and Prabhupada and different acharyas, they've repeated it over and over again that Bhakti Yoga is a direct path. Once you take to Bhakti, you don't have to worry about taking the yogic ladder, so to say. So this shows that Krishna has provided all these different paths. This shows his compassion, his empathy towards all his children. He could have just stayed one and said, "You have to follow this path." But what he did was, he understood that everyone wants to enjoy, and everyone needs time. So he created time, he created this material world, all the 26 elements, and then he put us here. And then what happened is that this time factor is what's separating us from Krishna. Because in the world, there's no time. Time is only a relative term in the mental world. When you go back home, there is no time. So all the yogic processes, they take time. And this time is only available in the material world, which means that all this is only available in this material world. You find yoga in the spiritual world. There's only bhakti there. So like this, also talks about Lord Brahma and how all the devotees of Lord Brahma can eventually take to the Vaikuntha planets and further stages of higher elevation. But we should not forget that demigods are departmental heads of this cosmic universe. And there's many religions, especially in India, that have a pantheistic view of God. But at the same time, although they're pantheistic, they're still monoistic at the same time, meaning that there's so many gods out there, but they all think that each of their respective Kula Devtas or worshipable deities are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Like in India, we have Lakshmi Puja, Saraswati Puja, Durga Puja, Shiva Puja, Brahma Puja, Surya Puja. All these different demigods are worshipped, one after the other. So the whole year, people are worshiping all these demigods. But they don't realize that Krishna is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These demigods, they're just departmental heads, and they're in charge of specific departments. Like Surya is in charge of providing us with heat, sunlight, making sure that the earth is getting heat at all times of the day, at all different parts of the earth. Varuna is in charge of the water, Vayu is in charge of the wind and airflow in this universe, so on and so forth. But although we should understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and these are just demigods, we should not at any point disrespect the demigods, because they are much, much more advanced than us. They are their state of consciousness is much higher than ours. We think just because we've taken the Krishna consciousness directly, we're superior to demigods. We may read many instances in the scriptures where you see a demigod committing an offense towards Krishna, like Lord Indra, Lord Brahmā. But there's also other scriptures, the Purānas, for example, the Itihasas, they'll talk about the glories of these demigods and what wonderful feats they've achieved. Just because we see one section of the Bhagavatam showing a pastime of Brahma offending Lord Krishna, that doesn't mean that Brahma has fallen down, or that he's not a pure devotee, or that he's useless or whatever. No, he's a very highly advanced devotee, and he has a much better understanding of Krishna than we do. His body is completely made up of subtle elements like the intelligence and passion. Our bodies are not. We are made out of gross elements like air, water, ether, fire, and earth. Like these 5 elements is what comprises our body. But Brahma, he's pure intelligence and completely subtle. So his body is already advanced than us. So we must understand that his consciousness is also much more elevated than ours. So like this, Krishna, if you go to a store, if you go to the supermarket, you're looking for something specific, like you're looking for, I don't know what the most common thing is that devotees buy, I guess sugar or flour, different kinds of flour. So white flour. So when we go to Whole Foods, for example, and we're looking for white flour, and someone who's just done the temple, they are sent for this expedition, go get me white flour. And this devotee has never even bought white flour. So he goes to the Whole Foods and he's looking, and he can't find anything. He can't find any flour. So he asks one of the local employees, hey, can you find me the flour? And this local employee goes like, yeah, I can, but let me see. This is not my department. I have to go search in the flour department. I have to go ask the flour department person. And then he goes to the flower department person and he wastes like 10 more minutes looking for them and then finding them. And then he comes and tells you, oh, it's in aisle number 1, right in front of you. This takes a little longer, but if you go to the store manager directly, or someone who knows the store better than all of us, and then someone who's arranged all the articles in the store, someone who has the full inventory, who knows where everything is, that person will be better suited to help you. And that person in this cosmic world is Krishna. If you go to Krishna directly and ask him whatever you need to ask him, money, fame, friendship, family, love, sex, cars, whatever you want, Krishna will give it to you. But and that is permanent. Whatever he gives you will be permanent, all the blessings he gives. But if you go to the demigods, what happens is that it's like a debt. Okay, you do some worship for me, follow these procedures, and I'll give you something. And then you owe me. You're indebted to me now. That's a transactional process. Whereas with bhakti, with Krishna, that's not the case. So demigods, whatever they do is temporary, because the goal of everything is to go to Krishna. So if the demigods were giving you something permanent, then no one would approach Krishna. Everyone would be satisfied and become complacent in their endeavors in this material world. And they would just be satisfied with demigod worship. The demigods, they know that Krishna is their master, so they can't give their worshippers or their devotees anything that's permanent. The world is created in such a way that everything has to go to Krishna at the end of the day. So this is the significance of demigods, that although they're powerful, although they're elevated, whatever they give, the fruits or rewards, whatever they give is temporary, because they want you to understand that you have to go to Krishna eventually. So the beauty of demigods, or beauty of devotees as well, is that although there's so many different kinds of religion in this world, so many philosophies, so many doctrines, so many thought processes, so many yoga systems, Krishna still sends his devotee in each of those systems to make sure that whoever is part of that system, they can eventually come to Krishna at some point. Like I said, time is prevalent in this material world. So for us, it looks like, we have to take so many births to come to Krishna, to so many different processes. But if you look at it from a higher point of view, a higher dimension, it's just a flash of a second, because time doesn't exist in the spiritual world. So whatever's happening here is, for up there, it's nothing. So like that, the beauty of the devotee and beauty of Krishna is that he's so merciful, and devotees are so merciful that they they come in every different kind of philosophy, every different kind of religion to preach the same message, that we must all go back home, back to Godhead. Some doctrines say that, we should attain the heaven of the heavenly planets or the heaven of God, so many things. But that's just a different way of saying, come back to God. This is not your place. Your place is back home, back to Godhead. So like there's Jesus Christ, there's Muhammad, there's other saintly people like Mother Teresa, there was Lord Buddha. So many saints have come, and they've all preached the same message, but they've said it in different ways for different people who, because of their different understandings, because of their attachment to different modes of nature. Like Lord Buddha, when he preached his philosophy of voidism, that Vedas don't exist, God doesn't exist, you meditate on me, and I'll give you liberation. He denied Vedas, and anyone who denies Vedas is called a Nastic, meaning that he's not a devotee. But Lord Buddha did it. Why? Because at that point it was a necessity, because animal killing was rampant, and people were killing many animals in the name of Vedic sacrifices. So in order to stop all that nonsense, he took compassion upon all the souls and told them that you give up all this nonsense and you just meditate. Meditate on nothing. Meditate on nothing. And then you'll attain liberation. So that was time, place, circumstance kind of a thing. But we as devotees, we have to understand that we have to be broad-minded. We cannot ignore the fact that everyone has a connection with Krishna. Everyone is connected to Krishna in some form or another, in various rasa, or it could be the primary rasa or a secondary rasa, but they all have a connection with Krishna. We're all his children. A cockroach, a rat, a dog, a cow, a human being, tiger, everything. We all are connected to Krishna in some way. We're just given different bodies based on our karma, based on our activities that we've performed in all our previous births. So this understanding that everyone should be compassionate towards Krishna's children, to each other, to our fellow brethren, this is called empathy, and this is something that all Vaishnavas should have. Because it's not just that, whoever doesn't take to Krishna consciousness is a demon and they're so fallen that they can never come to Krishna consciousness. No, we have to understand that everyone is struggling in this world. Not everyone has made it to this level that we, who are all assembled here in this temple room, have made it to. We cannot expect overnight for people on the street to come give up their tendencies, their proclivities, and chant 16 rounds the next day. It's impossible. It takes time. And that's what we're here for. We're here to preach. Preaching doesn't mean that you force someone that this is my method and then you have to follow it. No. Preaching means sharing. You have something very special. You have a connection with Krishna. You see Krishna in a certain way. You may see Krishna as your father. You may see Krishna as your friend. You may see Krishna as your lover. You may see Krishna as your master. Whatever it may be, you have that relationship with Krishna. And that's what you're sharing with others. You're not sharing with others that you have to take to Krishna consciousness now, otherwise you're an infidel or you're a fallen conditioned soul. That's not preaching. Preaching is when you're broad-minded, when you're compassionate, when you understand everyone's struggle, that everyone is struggling from some form of material tribulation, and all they're looking for is relief. Some people are looking for relief in gambling. Some people are looking for relief in alcohol, drugs, sex, driving really fast. So many things. There's so many things out there. But at the end of the day, the permanent relief can only be given by Krishna. He is the reservoir of all pleasure. So that pleasure can only come from Krishna. No other material activity devoid of Krishna can give you that pleasure. So if you're driving for Krishna fast, that's okay. That's what my Guru Maharaj told me. So demigod worship also, if it's indirectly done, if you're worshiping Lord Shiva for, he's known for what? To get a beautiful wife? Or no? That's his wife. If you worship Uma to get a beautiful wife, but you're not a devotee, or you're not trying to make her a devotee, then what's the point? In the same way, if you're worshiping Surya Dev for good health, but to what? To go to the gym every day and lift 500 pounds? That's useless. But if you're worshiping the sun god to have a good body, to maintain your Krishna consciousness and perform Krishna consciousness and do so many things for Krishna, then that's fine. Like we have this pastime in the 10th canto where Rukmini and her family King Bhishmaka, they were worshipping Katyayani, goddess Katyayani, who is an expansion of Durga. But the goal was what? To attain Krishna as her husband. That was her form of worship. She wasn't worshipping Katyayani to attain some mystical power. She's the goddess of fortune. She's an incarnation of the goddess of fortune. She doesn't need mystic power. She already has it. But she was worshipping Durga to get Krishna. So such kind of worship is fine. It's completely bona fide. So like this, we have to pay our respects to demigods. We cannot just say, oh, demigods, they're so fallen, they always insult Krishna, they always argue with Krishna, and so many pastimes. Then you quote all these pastimes where the demigods have fought or argued with Krishna. But that's a poor way of, and a poor understanding of understanding the position of demigods. You have to see the good that they've done. Like the Samudra Manthan Leela, where the demigods they had to get nectar of immortality. They also did some work. They put in their effort. It's not like they just stood there and Krishna gave them everything. No, Krishna saw them, put their effort in, and then Krishna helped them at the end in his Mohini incarnation. So like this, even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was traveling all over South India, he visited all the temples, every single one of them. He didn't ignore a temple because, oh, this is not me, this is not Krishna consciousness, I'm going to ignore it. No, he offered his respects at all these temples, and he glorified all the deities in those temples. So like this, approaching Krishna is actually easier when you go through a demigod, but in the direct process, meaning that you go to a demigod to ask for Krishna. Like most of us who come to this point of Krishna consciousness, at some point or other in our previous lives or the life before, we worshipped some form of Krishna, whether it was a demigod, a stone, aliens, animals, whatever. We have had worship somebody or some living entity. No one has come to Krishna consciousness directly. It's not possible. So the demigods are like our teachers, our preceptors. We have to offer respects to them. But at the same time, if you understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and you take to his worship directly, then that's perfect. That's even a better way. But for those who can't understand how to take to Krishna directly, then you have to go to the demigods. And that's what all these various Puranas, the 18 Puranas, talk about. 6 of them are in mode of goodness, 6 are in the mode of passion, and 6 are in the mode of ignorance. But we should not worship these demigods for material desires, only for spiritual desires, aka Krishna. So basically, this is what the verse is talking about, that Krishna can also be attained through worshipping Lord Brahma. Now, Prabhupada in Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela, I believe 5th chapter, he talks about 3 different ways in which someone who's residing in Brahma Loka can attain Krishna and attain the spiritual world. The first one is by performing pious activities. In that life, they'll get a planet in their next life. They'll be controller of a planet. And eventually, by being the controller of that planet, they'll get purified and Krishna will take them back. The second one is the worship of Hiranyagarbha. Hiranyagarbha is nothing but Garbhodakasha Vishnu, who has expanded himself to take the position of Lord Brahma. Meaning that sometimes Lord Brahma, there is no one to become Lord Brahma. It's an empty post. And Krishna sees, there's no one qualified in this universe to be Lord Brahma. Let me become Lord Brahma. So he expands himself as Garbhodakasha Vishnu expands himself as Hiranyagarbha and takes the position of Brahma. So that's the second way. And then the last way is the devotees of Krishna, because they know who Krishna is, but somehow they ended up in Brahma Loka. They, at the end of their lives, if they worship Krishna properly, if they follow the Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam process, they'll go back to Godhead. So these are the 3 ways for those devotees who are living in, or yogis who are living in Brahma Loka, how they can attain the spiritual sky. And like this, we can see that there's different kinds of yogis. We have the karma yogis, we have the jnana yogis, and then we have hatha yogis, which is a kind of a jnana yogi. And then we have the bhakti yogis. So karma yogis, what they do is prior to coming to karma yoga, they're usually worshipping demigods and they're in the mode of passion, they're doing all these fruitive activities. But when they come to yoga, when it becomes karma yoga, then they start to offer all their fruits of actions to Krishna. They connect everything that they do with Krishna. Like this Gyanis who are just speculating throughout their lives, when they become Gyani yogis or Jnana yogis, they understand that Vasudevam Sarvamiti, that's when they start to take to Krishna consciousness. And then of course, Bhakti yogis, they don't do any speculation, they don't do any fruitive activities. They simply try to engage themselves in pure devotional service to the best of their abilities. So like this, different worship of different demigods also gives different destinations. And people who are situated in different modes of the material natures, they have different destinations set for them. Like someone who's in the mode of goodness, they're worshipping demigods. And then Krishna says, Yanti deva vrata devan, pitrin yanti pitrivata, bhutani yanti bhutijya, yanti mad yajinopimam. So whoever worships demigods goes to the demigods. Whoever worships the forefathers, they go to the planets of the forefathers. And whoever worships the hobgoblins and ghosts, they end up with the ghosts and hobgoblins. So demigods is a mode of goodness. Then we have the forefathers, which is a mode of passion. And then ghosts and hobgoblins, which is the mode of ignorance. So all these ways, all these different forms of trying to understand who the Supreme Lord is, unless they take to bhakti yoga, unless they have the word yoga in their process, unless they link whatever they're doing to God or to the Supreme Divine or whatever they want to call it, until they devote or dovetail their proclivities to Krishna or the Supreme God, they will forever be in the cycle of birth and death, because everything without Krishna is temporary. You can have a whole billion zeros, but if you don't have that one before all those billion zeros, you have nothing. But if you have the one beside you, then you have everything. You have conquered the whole world. Krishna, like Arjuna, every time he saw Krishna, he was so happy. Like I'm listening to the Mahabharata, as some of you know. And it talks about Krishna's relationship with Arjuna and how Arjuna always adored Krishna. And whatever Krishna said, Arjuna did, because he considered Krishna to be his best friend, his maintainer, his protector, his everything. So that's the kind of relationship devotees have with Krishna. And whatever Arjuna did, he did for Krishna. Whereas all the other pious men like Ashwatthama, Duryodhan, Shakuni, Karna, Shalya, all these kings, they were pious people. They were following the Vedic standards. They were following the Vedic injunctions perfectly. But they failed to see Krishna as a Supreme Personality of Godhead. They just thought Krishna is some mystical person with some mystical powers. They failed to see Krishna for who he is. And that's why, despite Krishna not taking up any weapons in the war of Kurukshetra, he was able to defeat, Arjuna and the Pandavas were able to defeat all the Kauravas. Kauravas started with 11 Akshahini divisions, and the Pandavas only had 7. That's a huge difference. And of all the 640 million people, soldiers who were killed in Mahabharata, the Pandavas survived simply because they had Krishna on their side. And on the other side, they had all these stalwart warriors like Bhishma, Karna, Drona, Ashwatthama, Kripa, Shalya, all these demons, so many different kinds of warriors. Still, and they had a bigger army. Still, they were not able to defeat Pandava's tiny army and all their entourage. So this goes to show that whatever you do in Krishna consciousness is permanent. But whatever is not done for Krishna or with Krishna in mind, then that is temporary, and it will only bring you back. It's temporary, it's non-permanent, and it doesn't give you permanent results. Different ways of saying the same thing, but at the same time, we have to understand that only bhakti can give you permanent results. Swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. It will save you from the biggest fear, which is what? That your next life that you take, will be in Krishna consciousness. Krishna will ensure that. And that's the nature of the soul. The nature of the soul is that it's eternal. It's full of knowledge and bliss. And it wants to enjoy all the time. Our existence in this material world is like taking a fish out of the sea and putting it in like a small bowl. It's nice, it can survive, but it would rather be in the sea. So and you've seen that when you take the fish out of the water, it's like flapping and trying to get back into the water. And that's our constant struggle. We're trying to find that eternal happiness, but we're unable to. Some people, the impersonalists, they take to Brahman worship and they attain that, but at the same time, after some time, they realize that there is no enjoyment here, there's no knowledge here. It's just eternal void, and it's just blue light everywhere. There's nothing to do there. So again, they come back down. And Prabhupada has spoken extensively about this, how because they don't take to Krishna's lotus feet, they come down again and again and again. And this is what Lord Brahmā has also said in the 10th canto. So our goal should be to go back home, back to Godhead. And how do we do that? We do that with the proper method set forth by our acharyas, by our preceptors, by Srila Prabhupada, by Lord Krishna himself, as he says in the Bhagavad Gita. No half-baked method will work. Like for example, there's a case of Vishwamitra and Vasishtha, where Vishwamitra was jealous of Vasishtha, and he was trying to gain mystic powers, and he was trying to meditate. He was a Kshatriya. Which Kshatriya is meant for meditation? No, none of them. They're meant for fighting, they're meant for protection, they're meant for owning land, for controlling land, giving out land for rent. These are the duties of a Kshatriya. And Vishwamitra, he was trying to meditate, and he got distracted 3 different times by 3 different heavenly apsaras. First it was Menaka, then it was Rambha, and then I forgot the third one. But there were 3 different times that he fell down. And again, he kept going back to the same improper method of attaining Krishna. His goal was to attain powers, but had he just taken to Krishna consciousness, he would have attained all those powers. He would have attained the understanding that he doesn't need to be jealous of Vasishtha and his cow, or whatever he was looking for. Krishna will fulfill all his desires. But no, he didn't. Only after the 3rd try did he finally understand that this is all useless, that I should do something better. I should look for something better. So that's when he took to bhakti. So bhakti is the only way. And even in bhakti, to keep it going for a prolonged period of time, or to keep it going eternally, or keep it sustainable, there's 2 things that are needed. And Prabhupada talks about this extensively in his Nectar of Devotion. He says that utsahat and dhairyat, enthusiasm and patience, are the 2 things that are necessary for a devotee to be engaged in Krishna consciousness on a sustainable level. Not that you come to Krishna consciousness for the first time, you see everything is wonderful, you see stars and hearts everywhere, and you think devotees are great, and then after practicing Krishna consciousness for 3 years, you realize that devotees are full of offenses and they're all offending each other, then you leave Krishna consciousness. No, that's not really a proper way to continue Krishna consciousness. The proper way is you understand that, yes, Krishna at the beginning will give me that little glimpse of how attractive this whole process is. But then he'll make you work for it to get back to that feeling, to get that feeling again. Like I remember when I first came to Radha Govinda Temple in 2019, when the curtains opened, I felt this, I don't know, what do you call it, wave, or this feeling of like peace, that I'm at the right place. And when I kept coming back for the Sunday night kirtans and Sunday feasts and whatnot, I was very happy, and I thought everything was so great. This temple room was the best place ever, prasadam was the best thing ever, devotees were the best thing ever. And then over time, you realize that when the purification actually starts, that's when you realize how many anarthas you have, how many different things you see wrong. And Krishna is trying to purify you by putting you in such uncomfortable situations. And this is how bhakti is. You're getting purified at every instance. But if you give up, then what's the point? What's the point of giving up the perfect process? So the only way to maintain yourself in this perfect process is through utsahat and dhairyat, enthusiasm and patience. You have to be patient. Everything, all good things take time. No diamond is created overnight. Stones are carbon, basically carbon has to be put in very high temperatures. And after many, many, many millions of years, does it become a diamond. So carbon just doesn't become diamond overnight. A sinful person cannot become a pure devotee overnight. He can, if he takes to it sincerely, but most of us, we're lacking that sincerity. So we have to be patient and keep performing bhakti with enthusiasm. And in that way, we'll attain the detachment that we need and the knowledge that we need to take to Krishna consciousness. Because detachment, like in this verse, Prabhupada writes that in the purport he says, where did it go? Anyway, he talks about, I can't find it, he talks about detachment in this, that you can detach yourself from your body, your mind, and all these things. But that's not true detachment. True detachment is when whatever you have, you give it to Krishna, you dovetail that to Krishna. Anasaktasya vishayan yataram upayunjataha nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yuktam vairāgyam uchyate. So whatever you do, whatever you're doing, whatever you have, you dovetail that to Krishna. And in that, you'll attain bhakti. You'll attain Krishna. You'll attain his abode. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. We have a few minutes for questions if anyone wants to ask anything. Although I pray no one does. You can just ask the question, I can repeat it. Hare Krishna.
So, such a wonderful class program. I haven't heard class in a long time. Back home in Trinidad, we had the end of our class. Last time I gave a class, it was just me alone. Just no points. So it's such a wonderful thing to be here in New York and be here. And it's even more attractive to see all of you young faces. I'm an old man, so such a wonderful thing. When I see new faces in Trinidad, I feel in my heart it brings great joy, because it means that our Krishna consciousness movement, it will go on. But if there are no young faces, then we as old people will feel, depressed. So it's such a nice, to come here this morning and see so many young faces. It's such an enlightening thing for me. So time being the limit, it's more like more of not really a question, more of a comment that I'm making when you speak about the demigod worship. I could speak for maybe the rest of the day on it here. Because where I come from in Trinidad, of course, New York City don't have so many demigod temples. At least not that I know of. I've been here for the past 30 years or more. I've been around many of these demigod temples. But if any of you are familiar with Trinidad and Tobago, there's so many demigod temples, and they're so beautiful. They're even much more beautiful than our Western temples. 1 million times more beautiful. Very, very attractive. Wonderful temples. These Hindus, they spend their entire life, and we have thousands of wealthy Hindus, a lot of money in Trinidad, and they spend the money in these lavish Hindu temples. We should have to tell you, we do programs by the thousands in these temples. And one of the things, we have to be very cautious with, in our preaching. In the early days, when we were young, I was just a young man, more than 40 years. we used to make a lot of mistakes between people. So many mistakes, even the big parliamentarians in Trinidad will point out our mistakes. And, we were not Trinidad when we were young. Trinidad so we learned these verses, but we couldn't apply dhyana. So you young boys, you should try to apply this. If you hear him who's preaching or is speaking about the demigod worship, please don't disturb the man. Don't say anything. Just be a little bit humble. If you be a little bit humble, it's easy to get it. Easy. But if you offend them, Srila Prabhupada used to say, Indian people are like fine china ware. If you break the temple, you won't get a cent from them. So you have to be very cautious. Of course, you're not in Trinidad, you're in New York City, but if you come across, I know I have some family in Queens. Some Hindus are there also. Sunanda Prabhu is from Trinidad, and a temple there. So you have to be very, very cautious when you deal with the Hindu temple. People, especially when they were worshippers. Just be a little patient, a little kind, Sometimes I just don't say anything, and they talk.
Yeah.
And let them talk, And they say, oh, please come to our temple, please visit, we give you some prasad, just be nice to us. You can get anything from them. As you quite rightly say, most of us have been through this path for many, many years. As you were speaking, I was thinking about one nice, I will stop with this, but I am a talker, I can talk for hours. I just like sitting on we can talk. Maybe in Trinidad, there's our campus to talk. So, one time I saw the Srila Dāsa Swami, in the early days in 1965, 66, when the movement was not starting. He used to do the typing work for Srila Prabhupada. So he gave us the story. Of course, he used to travel, he used to travel. He's up east to Western Falls. We go in there on Saturday. So he was typing, and then he brought in this typing manuscripts, a few pages for Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada turned around, somewhere in New York City. Prabhupada had this whole cupboard full of manuscripts, thousands of manuscripts. And Prabhupada would take up your living again, 3 years later. Oh, Prabhupada, you have work for me for all, I think probably maybe it was winter or summer, maybe summer, and sending out a book for all of winter. Prabhupada said, my dear boy, I have work for you for many lifetimes. So this work of Krishna consciousness we are doing, this is our career. It's not just for a few days or a few years, crash course. You go to university, you get a degree, you get a big job, you become a lead, and like that, This process is for many lifetimes. We may make it back, we may, we don't know. I pray to the Lord, you said to get it, and we're going to do this. We practiced for 40 years. I didn't go anywhere. I still like the first thing. I didn't do it. So it's such a wonderful thing to see these, all of you young boys here. I've been here before the COVID. I didn't travel with the COVID time. But I was still out there a long time. I think 2019 was the last time. It's such a refreshing thing to see all of you young people here. Please keep up the good work. Things will be there, the difficulties will be there, just like just hope and pray that there is no house of shelter. So, but our faith will be tested, and particularly those deals with people for the faith. And we are doing that in Trinidad all the time. We will use now much more nicely like that. So just have to be cautious. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Gopinath Prabhu ki jai. Kantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I'll take it.